Of all of the tools that I added into my studio since starting creating content on YouTube and also just for my general online on-screen presence, I've think that the Stream Deck is by far the best thing that I've ever added into my setup, and it was something that I added in just for switching scenes and things like that in Ecamm. So to be able to just press a button and switch over to one scene, press a button here, switch over to a different camera up there, and so on. So that's why I bought the Stream Deck originally, but since getting it, if you've got a Stream Deck, you'll know that it is actually the ultimate productivity tool. So it was really just a great thing to have discovered and fallen upon with through getting into YouTube content creation. And really, it shouldn't be called the Stream Deck; it should be called something else because it certainly is not just for Stream Decks for streamers, I should say. But it's also something that I get most questions about, either in the content on my channel. So Stream Deck tends to be the most popular content of all of the sort of videos that I make on this channel. It's also something that I get the most questions about in my coaching calls and in the academy and things like that. So I thought today we would just have a general Q&A. So if you've got any questions in particular about Stream Deck, feel free to drop them into the live chat and I will get to them. And then also I've got a few that have come up just recently. The thing that spurred this particular live stream on right now is that this past week I've had quite a few different questions from different areas, either in the Take One Tech Academy or on calls and so on. So I thought I'd just get to some of those. So that's what we're going to be covering today. I'll just say a couple of quick hellos. Hello, David Hunt, in the chat here. For some reason, it's not come through into my Ecamm, but I see it in the YouTube chat. Great to see you here, Wayne. Great to see you too. Thanks for that. I appreciate the compliment there. Yeah, Uno is a great service. It's something that I made a video about just 2 days or 3 days ago, which is for putting live interactive overlays on your screen. And it's something that I created an icon pack for, so it's worth mentioning. You can find a link down in the description. It's a 200 icon pack for Stream Deck. This is what it looks like, or this is the full collection. It's generally for using with Uno overlays, but you may well find other uses for it. It's got things on there related to timing, scoring, triggering overlays, and so on. So even if you're not using Uno, you may well find that useful. I'll just drop that in the chat in case anybody missed it as well. If I just drop this into here. And as I say, yeah, so that's just a free icon pack. I've got other icon packs for sale on the website in the store as well, but you can find those down linked in the description as well. So just coming back though, let's see where we're up to. Yeah, so Uno is yeah, a great free service, so you're got you. Okay. Just reading as I'm putting these things up. Hey, George, great to see you here as well. Hello there, Dr. Sunny. Great to see you. Great name from Mississippi. Minimalist Carnivore. Great to see you too as well. And Rabbi David, great to see you too. Fantastic to see you here, of course, as always. And Bill, can you copy and paste an entire page to a profile and vice versa? Yeah, you can actually, since the recent update to getting into the first question, you can actually copy since the most recent update to Stream Deck. If I come over to my Stream Deck here, if you've got a page in here and you just right click and copy, then if we go over to a different profile, we should be able to just paste that in. You can also just right click and paste in here if you want to sort of duplicate a page. The other thing, by the way, is you can right click a page, click on copy, and then if we go into a particular button here and right click and paste the page into there, it will actually create it as a folder. So one of the things that was added in a recent update to folders is a great addition actually, which is this auto exit feature, which means that when you press a button, it will then exit out of that folder. So I never used to use folders at all actually, whereas now if we just go back to my first page, I've got a series of sort of promo things here, so these little lower thirds. So basically now what happens is if I press one of these buttons, it's going to auto exit. So if I want to put this little consultation link thing up onto the screen, you'll see how it exits out of that folder. So I use that all the time. But what that means is I then had lots of pages that I potentially wanted to translate into folders. And so this thing of being able to just right click on a page like this and then copy and paste as a folder is a really useful little trick to be able to do. So as far as I'm aware though, yeah, you can paste the pages between the different profiles as well. From great to see you there from Delaware, USA. Using it now. Excellent. So here you go. You have the regular size Stream Deck, and now almost a year. And I wish I'd bought bigger or the larger one, and plan on getting one. You know, this is the I do always recommend this, and it's such an easy thing to do, is to think about what you potentially want to do with Stream Deck. And I totally could have fallen into this trap, because what I thought I was going to use Stream Deck for was, as I say, for switching scenes in Ecamm. So it'd be very easy to think that, well, I've got sort of 5 primary scenes. Maybe there's a few like little animated overlays that I want to trigger, maybe 2 or 3. Maybe I'm going to want it to start and stop my recording. You could quite easily just figure that, well, 15 keys is going to be more than enough. And it's only when you get it that you realize all of the other things that could be done with it. So, yeah, the things like pages and profiles and things like that make it easier to work with, you know, when you start spilling out over onto second pages and so on. But yeah, it's a great little point to make there for others, though, is that whatever you think that you're going to do with Stream Deck, you're probably going to end up with far more things that you want to do with it. In fact, you know, the reason why I've got several on my desk is because of exactly that. Things have spilled out over onto further pages or further buttons. In fact, the reason why I've got multiple Stream Decks is probably could have been solved a little bit if they had that feature in folders a little bit sooner. But basically, all of my core things for Ecamm are on this one thing here. So this is where I'm doing all of my switching. These are all of my different scenes for different screen sharing and things like that. These are different overlays and stuff as well. But what I wanted is I wanted to be able to control all of the other stuff that I do, either when I'm live streaming or when I'm on a Zoom call or whatever, have a separate area to control all of that with, so that I was never finding myself off the main page where all of my main Ecamm controls are. Because it's the important thing is having that muscle memory to be able to know that, you know, without looking down, I know that if I press this button here, it's going to switch over to this scene, and then I can just instinctively feel down for this button just down here without even looking at it, and know that that's going to take me back to my main camera. So the problem I had was when I was trying to do this over multiple pages and switching away from the main page, then I'd go and use that muscle memory to press the button in the bottom corner, for example, only to realize I was on a different page, and so it would do something else. So there's a few things, though, that were added into Stream Deck that kind of help with that now, which could have potentially avoided me buying an extra one, although it's always handy to have those extra buttons. So one of the things that was added in that can help with this, if you are on a limited space with limited buttons, is they also have this concept of pinned actions as well. So let's say I want to have a button down in this bottom corner, as I had before, and it always be that like this one here. So this is my main Stream Deck. Let me just copy that, and I will just come back to here. And where are we? I've got to change my Stream Deck. There we go. What you can do is if I just paste that in here, you can right click on this and say pin. And what that's going to do is that's going to mean that will then be on every page. So every page that I create, if I move that out of the way, we've got that same pinned button there. And so if I switch back to this scene, you can see that we've got the button there, but if I go to this other page, it's there as well, and it'll appear on every single page. So that's a way that you can have things that are sort of fixed in position so that your key scenes or your key buttons can be there on every single page of your Stream Deck. And then you can always go to this one here, this sort of pinned page, and that will show you everything that you've got. So if you want to just create a collection of core buttons that are common across all of your pages, that's another really helpful feature when you are, as I say, limited on space to put them onto to all pages. So let's see. Hey, Keely, great to see you. Oh, and just popped into the Discord as well. Love this tip on folders. I use it for my sound effects as well as promo scenes. Yeah, that auto exit feature is a really useful one as well. I was thinking switching in Ecamm, and you were spot on. It's so much more. Yeah, it's really a misnamed device, calling it a Stream Deck, because it's already sort of positioned it as something that it is so much more than. It should have. I don't know what they should have called it, but anyway, it's people just have that assumption that it is just for Stream Deck. What apps are best suited for Stream Deck? What's your opinion? So in terms of the apps that you can use it with, There is literally no limit to what you can use it with. I mean, I use it with Excel. I'll use it for sometimes if I'm doing some stuff with data, for example, and I find that I'm just doing some like really repetitive thing, like going down a couple of cells, typing in some text, hitting return or hitting a shortcut key and going down to the next or something. I'll totally create a multi-action that is just that sequence of keys, just to be able to go through and just quickly press the button, press the button, press the button. It's going and doing all these little changes to multiple cells, things like that. I mean, it's you wouldn't necessarily assume that that would be what you could use a Stream Deck for, but it can be for literally anything. I don't tend to do much editing, but occasionally I used to do it with my podcast. I actually did the first time I've actually done editing on a recorded video was in that recent one I did on Uno overlays, because it was a sponsored post, and so I was a bit more conscious about misspeaking. Normally I would just breeze past it and correct myself, but there was a couple of instances where I wanted to just slice it and chop out something. So I was using the Stream Deck pedal with the command for slice and delete or whatever, and that made it really easy for sort of deleting stuff out of the timeline. So yeah, and so I'm just seeing your other comments specifically for live streaming. So if you are, so the app that I use for live streaming is Ecamm Live, and so the thing about that is it has got such a great inbuilt list of actions for Stream Deck. So this is the Ecamm Live plugin with all of these. It does just feel like of all of the plugins that I've got, this is the most sort of complete one. So this controls everything for Ecamm Live, and now we've also got the Ecamm for Zoom plugin specifically. So when using it with Zoom, then that's a great extra lot of actions that we've got in there. In terms of other general ones for live streaming, I'm just thinking I don't tend to use a specific other things for live streaming, because it tends to all be, for me, tends to all be done either through Ecamm. There's obviously the Uno one that I've been talking about, so that is something that is specifically for live streaming. I certainly use Keynote, so some of the animated graphics and things like that, when I do have that kind of live stream, would be through Keynote. So the ability to control Keynote at the same time as Ecamm is really useful. That's actually one of the sort of hidden benefits about Stream Deck, is that when you're working with multiple different applications like Ecamm or OBS, I was talking with somebody just on a coaching call this week actually about OBS in particular, and yeah, it's very, very sort of similar. So the the ability to have everything controlled from one place as a sort of mission control is something that's really handy, because then it feels like you're not controlling multiple different applications. It's all being done in from the Stream Deck. So, but yeah, I'm just talking because I'm just trying to think out loud of what is something else that I use specifically for live streaming. Generally, as I say, it's all controlled from through Ecamm for that. So there's not one particular plugin that I'm using in particular for that. So let's have a look where we're up to. Your video on using one to control the other made me realize I can add a large one and leverage both. Oh yeah, yeah. If you ever are adding in a second Stream Deck, then yes, that ability to switch profiles in Ecamm, in Stream Deck. I'll just mention this. If you go to the navigation section and go to switch profile, here I've got all my different profiles, and so if you go into the switch profile action, and then you can change the profile here to use that. If I get that comment off the screen, it would help me to show you. You can change the profile in the Stream Deck you're on, but note that you can also select the device. So that means that you can change to one of your other devices, or rather change the profile. So like my pedals, there's only 3 buttons on the Stream Deck pedal. I've got 2 of them. And so if I go to pedal left, then I can change to one of my other profiles for that pedal. So I'm using one Stream Deck to control the other. And then also what you can do is you can create a multi-action and put multiple of those in, so that in my case, what happens is because I've got this Stream Deck Plus down here, I use this for the sort of different use cases that I've got for Stream Deck. And so by pressing the button on this one, it's then going to update the profile on these 2 and also on the pedals as well. So it can change a complete setup. But yeah, if you've got a smaller one and a larger one, using the smaller one to sort of control the larger one makes a lot of sense. Um, so or maybe to say use one with the other as I did. I didn't know they could be used that way. So right, okay. So just saying the same thing there. Yeah, it's either using them side by side as extension. You could also have it that you press a button on one, like have a home profile on one of them, and then you have all of your other different profiles linked to it. But because you've got two, you can still use the home profile concept, but it's just changing what's on both of the Stream Deck. So yeah, really useful that. So let's see. Uh, are you are you on a PC? You can use if you're on a PC, you can use vMix instead of Ecamm Live. Yeah, you totally. Yeah, totally. vMix is another great alternative to Ecamm. Um, yeah, that's funny, isn't it? The the one video that I suppose I did technically do it in one take. I just went and chopped a couple of sentences out, but yeah, it is ironic that isn't the Uno is the one that I wasn't in one take. Uh, got my first foot pedal today. Oh, excellent! Using the Stream Deck to change cameras was just too much work. I know it's hard, isn't it? It's hard work on the fingers. It's funny though. There is something about the pedals. It seems like such a strange thing to begin with. As just computer users. Maybe if you're a musician and you're used to pressing pedals on the piano or something, maybe it comes a little bit more naturally. But yeah, initially it just seemed like kind of a weird concept. You're thinking, really, I'm going to be controlling my computer from my feet? But it has actually got a lot of use cases, and having the ability, if you're somebody who talks a lot and gestures a lot and things like that, or you just want to have them down up there and have everything else off your desk, then it's really useful for that. Somebody in the academy has got theirs and they're rigging it up. They've got two separate setups, one behind a desk and then one in front of a screen, so they sort of move between the two. And the idea of having the foot pedal that they can be standing and presenting and controlling still everything with the foot pedal is useful. So yeah, lots of good use cases for that. I use the foot pedal for a lot of these sort of ad hoc things that I just program for one specific task when I'm doing something on my computer. Like if I've got my hand on my mouse and keyboard because I'm doing something in Excel, but I just want this little repetitive task, of changing cells or whatever, I'll often just program that onto my pedals. So it's great if you're doing something else with your hands on the in a particular application, or like the editing thing. The whole thing of slicing and then deleting a thing is something that I've got a pedal thing set up for as well. Oh yeah, You asked me about apps to use with it. Keyboard Maestro actually is it's the sort of the power combination because Keyboard Maestro is the ultimate productivity application and automation application, and so linking that with Stream Deck is just the power move, the game changer, because you can do so much with it. So actually, yeah, having said that, I'm not sure what app I use for live streaming. Keyboard Maestro is certainly one of them because that does all the setup and everything like that. I use Keyboard Maestro to, open up certain apps, shut down other ones, and then also I'm using Moom as well. So that would actually now that I think about it, there's a list, isn't there? So Moom is another one that I use for live streaming. So if I just show you my setup for a second, probably need to adjust this camera. So over here on my computer, just zoom out from here as I unplug the camera by accident. Let's try that again, shall we? So there is my my monitor. There we go. This should come back in a second when I just plug that back in. Have I just knocked the cable out of that? Let me try that again. Let's see if we get that back. I think we have now. There we go. So yeah, on my screen here, I've got these different areas of my screen where I put my content that I want to share. So I've got my Stream Deck here, my Discord down there. That's a web page that I shared with you as well. So I have a button on my Stream Deck which is using Moom, and so that if I just press these buttons on my Stream Deck here, so we're just pressing these 6 buttons down here on Stream Deck. What that's doing is basically putting that web page or that application and moving it around between those different positions on my screen. And then in Ecamm, I'm sharing different portions of the screen. So then if I go into the screen share that is sharing just this portion of the screen, the result is that you see like this. You're just seeing that particular part of it. And if I go to my other screen share, sharing the top left-hand side, then you see my application. But as you can see, those things are just taking up a portion of my screen. So talking about apps that I use with live streaming, then certainly Moom is one of them. In fact, this is something that a question that came up again. It comes up all the time in the Ecamm group, but somebody asked it just the other day, which is when you are sharing a screen, and I use this application on my screen to sort of zoom in and things like that. So the little pointer, the little halo that you're seeing around the pointer there is an application called ProMouse, and that is something that I use for these demos. I can spotlight the screen and things like that as well. One of the common questions that people have, whether it is in Ecamm or OBS, is they see it on their screen, but it's not coming through into the recording. And the reason for that is if you are sharing a particular application in Ecamm or OBS, then by default, it is excluding, or by definition, it is excluding all of the other applications on your computer. And that includes ProMouse, because ProMouse is just an application that is running, that is putting that thing around the mouse pointer. So if you want it to come through into your live stream, into your recording, then what you need to do is share the entire desktop and then crop into it. And so that's the reason why I have this setup where I've got these different zones, if you like, on my screen, and I'm just sharing a different portion of it, because that means that whatever I put into this space is going to come through into the production, into the recording. It also is useful because if you imagine how many potential things you might want to share, depending on what type of content you're creating. I mean, I use this a lot in just general consultations and things like that on Zoom. So I want to be able to just bring things up to demonstrate or show. I don't want to have a scene in Ecamm for every single application that I may want to share. So it means that I've just got this muscle memory of these 6 different areas of my screen. And if I just show you this on my Stream Deck itself, come back over to the scene here. This is where I've got these 6 different areas of the screen, and you can see I've got these little icons that are representing, you know, the top left, top right, top middle, and so on, bottom left, bottom right, bottom middle. It means that I've just got this muscle memory knowing that, you know, whatever I put into that particular space, I can press the button and it will go over to that. So it makes it a lot easier to work with, a lot more sort of fluid when switching between these things, because I've got a button for Moom to put the thing in the place that I want it, and then a button for Stream Deck to actually switch to that scene in Ecamm. So hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, so coming back to your question, Bill, having said I don't think I use any other apps in particular, there is then, of course, yeah, so Keyboard Maestro, Moom, and then linking those with Stream Deck for just arranging things when streaming. In terms of general apps, by the way, not really Stream Deck, but a couple of others to mention is if you take a look at let me think. Speedify, which is one for combining multiple different internet connections to give you a bit more stability in your connection. So if you've got your tethered to a mobile, for example, as well as your hardwired connection, then it will sort of combine those and give you sort of redundancy. So if one fails, then it will continue on the other. So Speedify is a paid service, but and it also acts as a VPN, and it if that's of interest to you as well. But yeah, Speedify for giving you that stability of connection is one. There is another one called, let me think, what's it called? Trip Mode, which is an application that sits up in your menu bar, and you can sort of set up different things that you want to have access to your network. So this is controlling what has access to your bandwidth, basically. So you can set that up so that when you're streaming, you have a streaming setup, and it will stop things like iCloud, Dropbox, what do they call it? Adobe Creative Cloud, things like that. Stop them from communicating over the internet and block those connections. So it just stops them being bandwidth hogs, basically. Trip Mode was originally designed, and the name of it comes from the fact that, you know, when you're traveling, maybe if you're on a plane or in an airport or in a coffee shop or whatever, you don't necessarily want to be using lots of bandwidth there, or maybe even downloading stuff from, sensitive sites over a potentially unsecure network. And also, if you're on data roaming, you don't want things like that happening there. So Trip Mode was made for that. When you're on a trip, you can toggle it on. There's different settings that you can assign to it so that you're not pulling out things from there. I'm just I'm just noticing the comments there. Uh, so I do indeed look like an egg. Thank you very much for that. You were totally right. So if I go to the next question down, where are we up to? Uh, So Keyboard Maestro, love your info on Keyboard Maestro. Truly makes the Stream Deck a super tool for so many other things. You're totally right there. Yeah, it's a massive productivity boost for sure. So let's go down here. Ecamm, Keynote, Keyboard Maestro, and Finder are the ones that I set up. Yep. Hey there, Dr. Sunny. When you are in Ecamm for Zoom, you can't change profiles. Would the Stream Deck override that while in Ecamm for Zoom? That is a thing, isn't it? Yeah, with the Ecamm for Zoom integration, there's a couple of things about that. Yeah, not being able to necessarily change profiles, but then there's another one, which is sometimes I want to share the Zoom settings. And because Ecamm hides the Zoom things when you're in that, without going into live demo mode, it also seems to hide the Zoom ones. So, yes. It won't override it. So the Stream Deck changing profiles button won't, as far as I'm aware, override that because yeah, it's the Ecamm is sort of blocking that change. So so there we go. Is each area considered a display? So no, what I'm doing there is this. This is my sort of main display. So in Ecamm, I set up a screen share of this display. But then in Ecamm, what you can do is crop into an area by holding down the Option key. So if I just sort of demo this, let me try. I'll just try and do it on here. I've got my main window is somewhere else at the moment. So let's see if this works. What I'll do is I'll just go into my demo mode here, and you should be seeing this now. If I just add in a screen share overlay like that, and I will share this one. Which one is it? Whoops. I'll try this. There we go. So that is now sharing that entire display. That I mentioned about. I've got those 6 different areas. Now, if I hold down the Option key and drag in the corner, the side, so I'm holding down the Option key and drag, I'm basically just sort of cropping into to that area of the screen. So it's still only sharing that one particular display, but now anything that I move into that display, so I'm just dragging something around on my screen now, you can see that is moving it over into what is visible. So it's still just the same display that I'm sharing, and it's a separate scene. I've got a scene set up for each of those different things with like this. So there's one scene, another one, and so on. So I'm just sharing different areas of my desktop. They're individual scenes in Ecamm with individual buttons for them, but it's just sharing that same display. Hey, Dan, great to see you here. Oh, yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Glad you're taking back your weekends. So for me, right now, it is 5:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning here in Thailand. This is the last time I'm going to be streaming at this time. I'm going to start basically doing it 24 hours earlier. So next week, I'm actually not streaming. It's a Thai holiday. I'm going to be away for that. But then the following week, I will basically be 24 hours earlier. So whatever time it is for you right now, 2 weeks' time will be 24 hours earlier. It's funny, I started streaming at that time, 5 a.m. on a Saturday, because this channel started out as basically a little hobby project of mine and has grown into something so much more. But now it seems to make sense. And so that's why I was always doing it kind of separately from my main focus at the time, whereas now Take One Tech is my main focus, and so it makes sense for me to move it into working hours. And for me, 5 a.m. on a Friday is working hours. I generally wake up at 3 o'clock. So, but yeah, keeping it in the week time means that my weekends are just freed up. So thanks for that, Dan, and thanks for mentioning it, and thanks for being here as well. Let me see if we've got any other questions. Vasim, great to see you here. Started using Stream Deck on mobile as a starter for Zoom meeting control. Question, by the way, that is a great thing to mention. If you're considering Stream Deck and you haven't tried one out yet and you're not really sure what it can do, downloading the Stream Deck app for mobile is a great way to understand how the application works, because you still control it with the same application. I know you know this, Vaseem. I'm just mentioning it for others. But if you go into here, the Stream Decks that I've got attached, I've got my left and right pedals. I've got actually 2 Stream Deck Pluses. We'll talk about that. I have got a problem, as in I've got a problem with Stream Decks, not a problem with Stream Decks, if that makes sense. I've got my 2 XLs, but then I have got Stream Deck Mobile as well on 2 phone devices and also an iPad mini as well. So what that means is if you go into like Stream Deck Mobile, you can have there's a couple of things to mention here. First of all, you can try it out with just, a selection of, 15 buttons or whatever, and just give it a go to understand how the application works. But also, if you're on an iPad, you can make much larger screens. So if you've got like a whole bank of buttons that you want to use for some particular production, sometimes I will do that. I'll have it on my iPad where they're not like my regular buttons that I'm using, but I just want to be able to have like a lot of things for, let's say, a video with a whole series of B-roll or whatever that I want to trigger. Then I could just create that on my my iPad instead. But trying it out on the mobile is great, because then you're not investing in a hardware device and you get to try it out. That's what I did when I first heard about Stream Deck, but I don't think I even got to the end of the first day of trying it out. Before then, just going and buying one, I was just like, this is amazing. But it's a great way to test it. Anyway, I digress. Let me get to your actual question. So, started using Stream Deck on mobile as a starter for Zoom meeting control. Question: the Zoom application needs to be active for the Stream Deck to execute the command. Yeah, so if you are using anything where you've got keyboard shortcuts that you're trying to use. So, I mean, this could be as simple as, copy and paste, Command C, Command V or whatever in an application. Then the application that you're trying to control does need to be the frontmost application. However, with Zoom in particular, that's not quite the case if you use the Stream Deck plugin for Zoom. And I'll just show you this one. Let me come over to, let me think here. If you go down to the Zoom plugin, and by the way, the Zoom plugin is not actually made by Zoom. It is a third-party thing. But there is this plugin here, which is actually great. And it's got some basic commands like toggle video, toggle mic, and so on. And so all of these, if you're using this plugin, these commands here, when you press the button, it will trigger them in Zoom, even if Zoom isn't the frontmost application. It does it in the background. But there is also this one here called Custom Shortcut. And this one, what that allows you to do is, if we come over to here and I just drag it in, what you would do is go over to Zoom. I'm just going to open Zoom up to show you where to find this. Let me see. If you're using Ecamm for Zoom, by the way, obviously Ecamm for Zoom has a separate plugin that we just looked at that has all of these buttons in it. But otherwise, if you come over to your Zoom settings and go to keyboard shortcuts, you can see that there is this list of keyboard shortcuts for a whole load of other things that you can do in the meeting. Now, the thing about this is, like, if we look at, let's say, pause and resume screen sharing is Shift Command T on the Mac. In this plugin here, with that one that is for custom shortcut, what that allows you to do is basically trigger that keyboard shortcut even if Zoom is in the background. There is a little bit of a quirk though about it, which is that instead of in regular the common way that you would do this in Stream Deck is you would click in the button and you would actually press the keyboard shortcut to sort of program it. In here, you actually oddly have to type it out. So if it was, what was it, Command Shift S, then here you would literally write in Shift plus Command plus S. And so you would go through and program that for all of the different shortcuts, and then that would give you that profile. Now, what I actually did was I created my own Zoom profile. So if we go to here, this is a Zoom profile that I created, and I've gone through the process of actually programming all of those shortcuts, and I also created all of the icons for that as well. So if you go over to my store, which is if I actually change back to my the problem is now I've changed profile on here, so I'm out of the one that I use for camera switching. let me change my profile back. There we go. Press that button, that'll get me back. If you go over to my store on my website, there is a Zoom icon pack, and that basically includes not just the icons that I've just shown you, but it also includes the profile as well. So that thing that I just showed with all the icons set up for Zoom, I've gone through and created all of that and created all the links as well. So that is one way to do it. And so what happens then is when you press the button on Stream Deck, even if Zoom isn't the frontmost application, it's going to trigger Zoom in the background. Incidentally, if you want to do that with something else, that's specifically for that Zoom plugin. If you want to trigger keyboard shortcuts in applications whilst in the background in other cases, then if you're on a Mac, then Keyboard Maestro would be the thing to use for that, because in Keyboard Maestro what you can do is you can basically send a keyboard shortcut to a specific application, or you can trigger a menu command in an application that isn't the frontmost application as well. And in fact, coming over to my icon packs again, Keynote, this one here is for designing with Keynote. So it's got things like, combining shapes, subtracting shapes, grouping them, aligning, and all of that kind of thing. And basically what I've done with there is I'm triggering menu commands in Keynote using Keyboard Maestro. So I haven't had to go through and program a whole load of keyboard shortcuts for them. I'm just literally triggering the menu commands. This one here, YouTube Player, I created that one because I often also study at the University of YouTube. And so I find that I'm maybe watching a tutorial and I want to play and pause it and stop it and rewind it and all of those kind of things, but it's not the active application because I'm doing what I'm learning. And so I've got a YouTube player icon pack and profile, which basically then triggers the play and pause and skip and all of those kind of things in YouTube whilst I'm watching. So you can find that on my store as well. But that is using Keyboard Maestro. And in these cases, these include not just the icons and the profiles, but they also include all of the Keyboard Maestro macros already set up. So and I've got videos on my channel about how to do all of that, and I walk through the process. But then if you want to save yourself the time, then the profile is there for $10. So that's what that is all about. Let me come back, a little bit of blatant self-promotion there, but let me hope that did actually answer your question as well. The question was that Zoom needs to be the active application. Yeah, if you program the buttons using that Zoom plugin, though, you can do it whilst it's not the active application. Because obviously, often you're in a Zoom meeting and you may be demonstrating something in another app, so it's often the case that they're not the active application. David, let me see what you're asking here. So how easy is it to add multicam? How easy is it to add multicam? Let me think what you mean by that. How easy is it to add? I'm just trying to think what multi-camera you mean by that in terms of Keyboard Maestro and Stream Deck. Am I misreading that or something? So multicam, as in Ecamm, you can have multiple cameras. If that is what you're talking about, then that's just a case of creating scenes in Ecamm. I'm questioning it because I know that you know all this already. That's why, David, I feel like I'm misunderstanding the I feel like I'm misunderstanding the question somehow because I know that you know this. But in Ecamm, you can create a different scene that's got multiple different cameras and so on, and switching between them. And so I'm just basically using the built-in ones there. I feel like I'm missing the point of your question, and that's my brain not quite working. So let me know what exactly you're meaning by that, because I feel like I'm not quite understanding. So let's see. Hey there. I don't know how to pronounce that, but hey there. Great to see you. Your name there. Do you use Camo, an app that lets you use your phone as a camera? I wish there was a cam switch option on Stream Deck. I do use Camo to bring my mobile into Ecamm, for example, and you can also use it directly in that. I don't know if there is a camera switcher option switching in Camo. Let's just open it up though, because it could just be a case of I tend to only use it for one, so I don't really do sort of production in Camo as such. So I'm not doing any switching in there. But let's just bring it up here and see if there is a keyboard shortcut for that. Because if there is... Okay, so yeah, what you could do is if I... let's see if this is going to crop this out or not. All right, I'm in Camo Studio. You can't see it, but what I'm activating here is I'm activating just the drop-down menu for camera. And when you activate the drop down menu for camera up in the top, you'll see it says device. And then these are all the devices that I could potentially bring into Camo. Just ignore the Stream Deck there. This is not what I'm showing. So imagine that you're in the Camo app, go up to the camera menu at the top, and then go to device. And then you've got the HubSpot, live streamer, camera, whatever. These are the cameras that I've got connected. So this is where I can change the camera that is active in Camo, which I think is what you're looking for. You want a Stream Deck button to change the camera that you're working with. I think that's what you're talking about. So at the moment, obviously, we can activate it for the menu, but that's no use to us because we want to activate it from Stream Deck. So there's a couple of ways that you could do this. Either you could set up, and I don't know if you're on PC or Mac, by the way, but if you're on a Mac, there is a couple of ways that you can set up a shortcut for this. There is an application that is just called Custom Shortcuts. I don't actually think I've got it on this Mac anymore because I just do it all with Keyboard Maestro. There is an app called Custom Shortcuts, or indeed you can do it in your Mac settings. Let's go to that one instead. If you open up your Mac settings, and then let me just find it in here. It's in Keyboard Shortcuts. Yeah, so if you just search for keyboard shortcuts in there, you can basically create a shortcut for any application that you want. And so you could add in basically a keyboard shortcut for those different menu commands in here. So in camera, device, you could add in your own custom shortcut for that. And then in Stream Deck, you could use Stream Deck to trigger that shortcut. The other way, though, you can do it is in Keyboard Maestro. So let's open that up. Keyboard Maestro is, I don't know whether it's $40, $50, $60, something like that, but it's a one-off payment, and it's just an amazing tool to have. So it's not like another subscription that you've got to subscribe to. So I would definitely recommend checking out Keyboard Maestro. This is Keyboard Maestro here. And what we can do is I've got these folders that organize all my macros. This column here is the specific macro that we're looking at, and this is where you edit it. So let me just take your comment off the screen for a second. If I wanted to create a macro here to change camera in Camo, what I would do is I would click on plus. I'm just going to call this camera A. Let's say just for the sake of argument, so we know what it is. And then here, what we're going to do is Keyboard Maestro works where there's basically some sort of trigger, usually a keyboard shortcut, and then there is an action that happens after it, or a chain of actions. We're not going to add a trigger in because we're just going to trigger it with Stream Deck. But then if I click on new action like this, and what I can do is go to menu, because what we want to do is select or show a menu item that we've got in one of our applications. So I'll just drag that and drop that down there. And now what we do is we say select a menu in, and we can go to this place here. We would choose Camo Studio, and then we want to go to camera, and then we go to device, and then I could select a device here. So let's say FaceTime HD camera, and let's change this actually to Camo FaceTime. Right, face a rhyme. There we go. I got it eventually. Right, so now that button, basically, that action is going to switch to the FaceTime camera in Camo Studio. And then, of course, we could just duplicate that action there. So if we just duplicate, and then we come into this here and change the menu item. I'm going to go through that process again, just to pick one of those others. Camo Studio, camera, device, and let's say Camlink 4K, for example. So we'll call this Camlink. Like that. So now we've basically got two actions in Keyboard Maestro that are triggering those menu commands in Camo. And then what it's just a case of doing is coming back over to Stream Deck like this. And if I just go to, I'll just switch over to my second Stream Deck actually. And we'll go to just a blank page at the end. Then what I would do is I would come over here to, where's the key? It's actually, so KM Link is the plugin that you want. It's the link between Keyboard Maestro. There is a Keyboard Maestro plugin as well. That's for something slightly different. You actually use that for updating Stream Deck based on actions in Keyboard Maestro. But if you drag the KM Link button on here, and then you see where it just says select macro at the bottom, and then there it just pulls in the most recent one, but you can scroll through and find some others in there as well. So clicking on that button now is basically to switch to that camera in Camo Studio. I don't know if that answered your question. It may well be that I completely misunderstood the question and we've gone off on a tangent, but hopefully that did. That's one way you can do it. Oh, by the way, I should probably mention as well, actually, you were talking, Vasim, about I mentioned about switching, controlling an app that is not the frontmost application. There is another workaround for this, which is that you just simply make that application the frontmost application first. So just coming back to this this question as another alternative, if you wanted to send a keyboard shortcut like using this, if I go up to, where is it? System hotkey. Let's just use something random like Command C, for example. That is going to trigger that keyboard shortcut in the frontmost application. If you wanted to trigger it into a specific application, one thing you can do is if you create a multi-action first, and then you use the open command, which normally would open up an application. But if the application is already running, it has the effect of just bringing it to the front to make it the active application. So let's say I wanted something to trigger in Zoom. I could do this, create a multi-action, use the open command, and then in here, I could just open up the Zoom. And we'll just open up the Zoom app like that. And then what I could do is I could add the hotkey after that, and then assign whatever. Command-Shift-S was screen share, wasn't it? That would be another way of doing it. It's basically now you've got a multi-action, which is going to trigger bringing the application to the front first of all, and then trigger the keyboard shortcut. So that's just another way. I forgot to mention that last time, but that would be another way of doing that. Let's see where we're up to. I finally started using my Stream Deck. Great. It's a game changer. I'm a total Stream Deck geek. I plan to watch tutorials, but how do I add an applause WebM from my computer to Stream Deck so I don't have to use the sound effects window in Ecamm? There's a little potential issue you may run into there. It's totally workable, but just to be clear, there is a sound effects option on Stream Deck. So if you come over to Stream Deck and then go to here, you've got this thing called Soundboard, and you can drag this in and select Play Audio, and then you can choose a file from there. You mentioned WebM, by the way, but WebM, if it's WebM, I think typically is video as well. But if it's a WebM with just audio, maybe I'm misunderstanding that. But anyway, you can add in a file here, so it's going to play that. The one thing to be mindful of there, though, is when you use this particular function here to play audio from the soundboard, it's playing it as system audio. And that means that if you're listening, presumably you're listening, you're not monitoring your own thing, you would hear it, but it wouldn't necessarily get passed through into Ecamm, because Ecamm is only going to be capturing system audio when it's explicitly told to do so. So for example, if I come into my Ecamm settings here, there are, and let's see what's the best way of doing this. I can probably actually just share this onto the screen in this way. Let me just bring this up for a second. I will just add this as a screen share rather than going into full live demo mode. And then I'll change this to share Ecamm preferences. There we go. So I've now added the Ecamm Live preferences onto the screen. So what I want to show you, though, is in Ecamm Live preferences, if you go to the audio section here, you'll see that there is this option, broadcast system audio. And the default, by the way, is when sharing the screen. So that means that when you are doing a screen share, the audio is then passing through into the production. Whereas if you are not sharing the screen, like if I'm not sharing anything on the screen right now, and it's just my camera, if I had a sound effect on Stream Deck, it wouldn't be passing through into Ecamm because Ecamm is not capturing the system audio. So if you are going to trigger things via Stream Deck and they're playing through Stream Deck rather than in Ecamm, you would want to set that to all the time so that those audio sound effects went through. Either that or do some other kind of routing. You know, if you were using a Rodecaster, you could have it that the system audio was coming through the Rodecaster and back into Ecamm that way. So that's another thing. But it's just something to be mindful of, because the worst thing is you're hearing something that everyone else isn't, and you might have this stream where you've got all these sound effects coming through and you think it's going great, and then after the fact somebody mentions or you say, what did you think of the sound effects, and someone said, we didn't hear anything. So it's just something to be mindful of, that you might not be hearing what everyone else is. So that would be one way to do it, is to have that broadcast system audio set to all the time, and then it would capture those sound effects. Yeah, so I personally do have any audio that's coming through Ecamm. I do find it easier just to drag and drop it into the sound effects window there. But that is how you would do that. Let's see. How do you add the components to the chat when you show an overlay? Is Keyboard Maestro involved? When I'm adding things into, I'm thinking what you mean by this is, like, if I go to my little promo folder, so I'll come over to here. Like when I put one of these things up, like let's give an example. This one. If you want to join the Academy, then check out the takeonetech.io/academy. And when that animation appears on screen, it also posts a link down into the chat. So all that is actually is just a little multi-action in Stream Deck. So I've got my little promo folder here with these different things that I potentially want to post. And then each of these is a multi-action. And all I'm doing is I'm triggering an overlay and posting a comment. So in Ecamm, there is an option in Ecamm which is post comment. So here. And then you have the option of just typing in whatever you want to add in for that comment. So that's posting the comment part. And then there's also play animation, which is this option in Ecamm. And so that then has, I've just got a list of all of my different overlays, and it's pulling in all of the animated overlays there. So that's how that's working. So when I want to put up one of those little calls to action, or like my store, you can find my icon packs on my store. I'm going to press that button and it will auto exit back out to that main thing. It's just posted a link to my store and also popped up that animation on screen. So yeah, that's just multi-actions and not Keyboard Maestro. So there we go. Oh, there you go. This is the problem when I'm reading through these things, taking them, and then yeah. So it is indeed a multi-action. Yeah, just got to your comment a few times down. Great stuff, Fasim. Glad that was helpful. Let's see where we're up to. Hello, M2. I find Stream Deck super useful in CAD work. Oh, yes, for sure. CAD work is definitely helpful for that. Twice as fast with Elgato's excellent tool. I have 3215 and mobile. Oh, well, I'm great. Thank you that it's. Thanks for saying that, and I'm glad that it has been helpful. Yeah, in my previous life, I was an architect as well. So I used to use I was always used to using like sort of no hands on the keyboard. So I use a 3D Connection Space Mouse Pro for the other architects will know that it's like basically a 3D mouse. So you can manipulate CAD models in all dimensions and sort of zoom in and zoom out. So I would tend to be sort of sitting there, one hand on a mouse, one hand on my space mouse, and then doing all the design work in that. So yeah, the idea of having like an extra device in addition to the mouse was something that came really naturally to me. But yeah, to have all of those controls on, I never actually used the Stream Deck with CAD myself. It sort of came after that sort of phase of building houses and designing houses in Thailand for a decade. So I don't do that anymore. But yeah, for all of those sorts of controls, I can totally imagine a game changer. So glad that the content's helped though. Thanks for the reminder on Uno overlays. I need to watch your refresher on that. Yeah, I tell you what, I did check out Uno overlays when I think it was when they were in beta at the beginning of last year, and I think at the time, I can't remember how many different overlays they had. It was like, I don't know, 10 or 20 or something like that. And so I never really, I was just busy with other things as well. I never really had the time to sort of dive into it. And it was when they reached out to me actually a few weeks ago, and I looked at it, I was like, holy crap, they've got over 500 now. It's quite amazing. So yeah, if you've checked out Uno before, then definitely give them another look, because they've got, as I say, yeah, just 500 overlays. I think I've just noticed I've still got for the video that I created, I've still got the little celebrating 500 overlays for Uno just down below. I normally have my little course icon or something down that like that down there. But yeah, great. Definitely recommend checking out. I want my you may well guess. I want my lawnmower to cut the grass when I press a button. Show me how. Okay, right. Well, if you've got an automated mowing machine that is like an Internet of Things enabled type thing, so you can get. I saw somebody with one of these the other day. You can get, what do they call it? The Roomba, the vacuum cleaner that cleans your house, and it's just a little robot that goes out and then does its little thing and then comes back and docks itself in its charging station. You can get Roomba mowers, so they're basically a little mower, and then it will just go out and mow your grass for you. So, with that said, there is probably an app that you can do it with to trigger it, and you could use something like if this then that. So, if this then that is a kind of if you think about Keyboard Maestro, that's what that's doing. It's if something then something else. It's an automation tool. Well, if this then that is another one of those things. It's a bit like Zapier as well. So that's another one where, but these are web based. So, Keyboard Maestro is desktop based. It's something that sits on your Mac, where something like Zapier or if this then that are web based tools, but you can send commands to them and then have them trigger stuff from basically web events. I wonder if one of these Roomba style lawnmowers could be linked to if this then that, and then you could then trigger that from the Stream Deck, because there is an if this then that plugin for Stream Deck that you could press a button and have it do that. You could certainly have Stream Deck press a button and open your automatic garage door, for example, turn on all the lights in your house and all of that kind of thing, because it's got plugins for all of those kind of things. So yeah, you may jest, but it might well be possible. Let's see where we're up to. Great. Yeah, the multi-action thing is the thing. So you had the hardest time following my how-to for beginners guide, and after a month, I discovered Govee light bulbs don't all work with the app and Elgato. Well, sorry you had trouble following along with it. Do let me know why that was and what I had missed out on there. I will try and improve going forward. Govee lights. Yeah, I've not tried Govee lights. So Govee they make video lights. There's all kinds of different ones you can get, different bulbs, strip lights, and things like that. So yeah, I don't know about their particular compatibility of that. It might well. Yeah, I can't speak to that. I don't know what their compatibility is like. My lights that I use, all these RGB lights, I use Nanlite, and there is no Stream Deck plugin for that at all. Boo-hoo. But what they do have is they've got a mobile app, and I've totally hacked this because they've got a mobile app that can run on the the mobile apps for iOS can run on Mac. Certain ones can. So I've got the I'm losing my train of thought here. I've got the Nanlink app running on my desktop, and then I'm using Keyboard Maestro to simulate button presses to do those things. So yeah, I am controlling it with that. So you're just having some issue with some of the bulbs. Can we control lighting action with Stream Deck? So that's what I do with my Nanlite, as I've just mentioned. If you've got Elgato lights, then there is an Elgato Light plugin for Stream Deck, as you would imagine, and so they can be controlled by that. There is a few other. I've never actually played with these. There is. Let me think what it's called. I'm just going to open the Elgato Marketplace store. By the way, I don't know if anybody else feels like this, but it used to be that there was a little button here called Store, and then you would open that up, and it would open up the little pop-out that would then have all the icon packs and things like that in, and plugins. They then changed that to Elgato Marketplace, and now this is all done on the web. I guess the reason they've done that is to make it. I don't know whether it's easier for people to integrate their own stuff into there or whatever, but I find this a little bit more clunky, and it doesn't always, it's not quite as seamless to actually get stuff onto here. But if we go to plugins, and I'll go to just lighting, there is a few in here that I've never really tried out. So there's a one for like Philips Hue light bulbs, if you've got Philips Hue, the Elgato one, obviously. There is a couple in here, though, that were specifically Oh, I'm not finding them here. Let's go to show all plugins. That would help. IQ, I think, is one of the ones. If you've got newer lights, they can control by that as well. It might be this one that I was thinking about, where you can basically use it with other different lights and then have it have different lighting effects triggered and things like that. So that's another one to check out for controlling lighting. I think that's the one that integrates with other systems, and basically any automation system that you've got can potentially control those lights as well. So I don't know if that helps, by the way. So let's see where we're up to. Any other questions about Stream Deck? Feel free to drop them in. Hey, Eric, great to see you here. You use Zigbee with If This Then That, and that's controlled with Stream Deck. Oh yeah, so that's So if you've got any lighting that you can control with IFTTT, If This Then that can control it as well. So still on in Govee, they sell a few types of bulbs that actually work with Elgato. Please look up the model of the light by Govee. Not all the models work with the Elgato app. I see. Right. So yeah, that's a bit confusing, isn't it? that the app is not controlling all of their lights. Any other questions about Stream Deck? Feel free to drop them in. If you have any other questions and you're watching on replay, drop them in the comments by all means, but a better place is to drop them over in the Discord community at takeonetech.io/family. The link to that is in the description as well. And that's a place where you can get your questions answered as well. I just looking through my list. I did have a list of questions that had come up this week. I'm just seeing if we've actually covered quite a lot of them. There was one of them that, so these were the questions that I didn't get to because I've been answering everyone else's questions, which is great. Let's see. So there was one that came up recently, which was about wanting to be able to have a button to switch audio sources on your Mac. And there's a great plugin, which is just simply called Audio Switch. I think that this might be Mac only, actually. So apologies to any PC users, but it came up from a Mac user in the Academy, and it's just this one here. It's called wrong scene. There we go. It's called Audio Switch, and all it does is you just have it where you have a button. It can toggle between two different sources. So, for example, if you are on the road and you want to use your speakers and a particular microphone, but then when you get back in your studio, you want to swap over so that your system audio is coming out of some other source. Audio Switcher is a great way to do that. You just press a button and it toggles between different things, and obviously you can have multiple different options for it as well. So you can have for different setups that you've got. So one of the examples of this was, when somebody goes on a Zoom call, they want to completely switch up what is happening with their audio. So that is a great one to just mention that came up recently. Alec, I should create a course for programming my own Stream Deck extension. You know what? I've never actually looked at creating a Stream Deck extension. I did apply to their to the developer thing to get the kit, but then I had some ideas, but I never actually went with it. My problem is I've got too many too many projects on the go. I should mention though that I do have a Stream Deck masterclass for anyone that's interested, and this is going into. I can just show you what it looks like inside. If I come back to here we go. Where is it? There we go. That's what it looks like inside. So there's 80 lessons. It covers obviously introduction to Stream Deck, basic setup, how to use it in terms of plugins and actions. But then the sort of deeper dive stuff goes into the process of organizing and personalizing your Stream Deck. And there's a whole load of videos in there about that. And that is something that I think is often overlooked. And it's one of the friction points that I find people have with using Stream Deck. Unbelievably, given how powerful it is, I've had calls with people where they said, oh, I've had one sitting on my desk for 8 months and I still haven't used it properly. And part of the reason for that, I think, comes down to user interface, as in it's a blank canvas when we get it. The actual Stream Deck application may be fine, but when you're sitting there and you've got a Stream Deck on your desk out of the box, as it were, it's just a series of blank buttons. They have added in the most recent firmware update or software update a sort of default a profile, if you like, with a few different things on, but depending on what you're doing with it, that might not be relevant. So effectively you're sitting there with a blank canvas and you've got to design your own user interface on your desk. So I've designed my icons and things to all look consistent, and they've got this same sort of look and feel to them, and everything sort of feels to me, sort of cohesive. But sometimes if you've got like a jumble of different icons on there, it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like a good user experience, and we've designed it ourselves. So I always liken it to getting into a car and having a dashboard. If everything's in a jumbled up position and isn't user friendly, then it's not going to flow properly. And also from a design aesthetic point of view, companies spend millions on their design of their websites and their user interfaces in their apps and things like that. Well, we're effectively designing our own user interface here, and so that's why I did put quite an emphasis on not just organizing your Stream Deck for maximum effectiveness, but also personalizing it to make it that user-friendly thing that comes naturally to you, and how to work with it, so you do build up that muscle memory. So that's a big part of the course as well. And then we go into 3 core sections. So the ultimate productivity tool is all about using it specifically for productivity. And by the way, these are the subheadings there's a series of videos within these. So this is the productivity section. There's a whole load of videos in there specifically about using it for productivity. And then we've got a section on live streaming and video production. Obviously, it's in original intended purpose. And then I talk about how to use it in your online meetings. Excuse me while I just cough. And so that's a whole section as well. And then we've got some other resources in there. And by the way, if you sign up to the course, you do also get all of those Stream Deck icon packs included with that. So I've got a whole series of packs available on my website. You can find it on the store. You can also find a big link to get the course from there as well. You can find a link to that down in the description as well. So let's just come down I don't know how I digressed onto a bit of self-promotion there, but there we go. Let me see. If I want to copy some buttons from one profile to another, is there a way to copy more than one at a time? Yeah, so there isn't a way to sort of highlight multiple buttons. So like here, I can't sort of click and highlight multiple buttons like this. But one way that you may consider doing it, if you've got a whole bunch of them, is you can right click on copy an entire page and then go to the other profile and paste it in there. But yeah, you can't highlight sort of 3 or 4 buttons at a time. It would be great to do that, but you can't do that at the moment. And you could also copy the entire page, move over to another profile, and then just paste it as a folder as well. Would be another way of doing that, and then you've got all the buttons that were in there. So that's another potential option for that. But yeah, I would love to be able to just highlight 3 or 4 buttons and do it, but sadly you can't do that just yet. Thanks, David. Yes, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe if you're finding this useful. I always forget to say that myself, so thanks. Thanks for saying that, David. Lifehold Strategic, great to see you here. Thanks so much for the keynote video on making your own icons. I use Sharper 3D and was able to make all the shortcut icons for my Stream Deck CAD mouse setup. Excellent. Yeah, that is how I've made all of the icons on my channel, actually, on my Stream Deck icon packs, is just with Keynote. And yeah, you can use all kinds of different programs to do it. It doesn't necessarily need to be a dedicated icon design package. And what I also did is, let me see if I can easily get this open. When Apple redesigned the interface, I don't know if you remember how many years ago this was now. Maybe it was, I don't know if it was 5 or 6 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. They went from that skeuomorphic design where the Notepad app looked like a little leather-bound notepad and all of that kind of thing. They went through this process of redesigning it and had this much sort of cleaner look to the Apple icons. And one of the things that they did was they created a little layout template, or a little design template, I should say, that was then used across all of their icons. Now, let me just open up my Keynote. This is quite amusing. Let's see if we can get this all fit in the screen. Here is my Keynote, and I'll just zoom out. Here is basically my file with all of my different icons in for various different things. So what I've done, though, if I go over to here, I'll go to File Navigator. What I've got here is, you can see in the background, let me just get rid of this. In fact, I'll just duplicate that. Ignore the little Discord icon, but I'll leave it in there because you see that thing, that grid there, that frame, and you can find this anywhere on the internet. If you just search for iOS icon design grid or something like that. And it's this thing here. So that was the design guide that Apple created for creating all of the icons for iOS. But I thought, well, why reinvent the wheel? I basically use that then in my icons. And so you can see then that things like this, the thing that gives them the consistency is using a consistent framework for designing the icons, and then everything has a consistent look and feel. So if you just come back to this one, if I just take that little grid there, I'm going to just copy that, and I'll come into to here, and then I'll paste it over the top. You can see that the triangle in the middle there is aligned to those two lines there. Obviously the circle on the outside is aligned to that circle there. But if I go into any of these other things, they're also using that exact same sort of design language in terms of the positions of things. Let me just paste it into this one, for example. You can see the alignment is all working with that structure that Apple very created for us, very kindly created for us. And so that's where I've got this sort of consistent look you'll see across all of my apps, all of my icons rather. And so in Keynote, all you do is go into Document. You could do this in PowerPoint. You could obviously do it in any, a proper graphic design app, but it's just that I use Keynote so much. It's so simple to create these things. Then that's just why I create them in here. So if you go into Document, you can change the setup. So the slide size here, usually it's going to be this widescreen or standard, but you can also go and create a custom slide size, and then all you do is just create something that's a square. Technically, the icons for Stream Deck are 32 pixels. Hang on, 32 or 72? I can't remember. Something like that, pixels square, but I just made it larger, but still square, basically 500 by 500, just to give it that bit of future proofing in case they need to be used on a larger device. But yeah, so all I do is create these things in Keynote, and then I can go to export and export the slides as images, and then I just get a folder with all of the images in it. So that is how I create my my icons for Stream Deck. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that, because it's a great, easy way to create them. Still takes a bit of time, obviously, but yeah, if you download that grid from search for it on the web, it's a great guide to use. I know you know that, but for other people, Rich uses the audio switch thing all the time to go between speakers and headphones. Yeah, it's really great. It's a simple thing. It's just it's a thing that does one job and does it well. You've had success with audio devices, SD plugin to switch audio. All right, okay. I've not heard of that one. Let me go and have a quick look at that. That sounds like it might be a little bit more full-featured, maybe. So I'll take a quick look. Whoops, if I can spell. I can never write. I can never talk and type at the same time. Or at least not type anything legible. Oh, that's weird. I'll look at that later. It's giving me an error for some reason, so I don't know quite why that is. I told my boss today that a Stream Deck has to be a labor of love. If you mean setting it up, yeah, then yeah, but it is one of those things that it pays to spend some time getting it all set up. But then once it's set up, it's a real time saver. I do kind of think that there's been a trick missed in industry by more people not using Stream Decks. I had a call, actually, a consultation with somebody but a couple of weeks ago that they were looking to roll out Stream Decks across their company so that everyone would have a Stream Deck on their desk for certain things and it was nothing to do with streaming or video production, but purely as a productivity tool. So we're talking about how that could potentially work. So yeah, it's something that more companies, I think, should look into. In Chief Architect, shortcut keys are text in Mac OS, but Windows, I had to use a hotkey. If you know, is that a Stream Deck issue or Chief? Let me see. Shortcut keys are text in Mac OS. I don't know if you mean in the same way that Zoom one that I showed earlier, where you had to actually explicitly type the thing in or not. I'm not sure. Is there let me try that again. Is there a specific plugin for Chief Architect, or is it just using those hotkeys? If it's just using hotkeys, then there should be no reason why the hotkey action wouldn't trigger them in Stream Deck. So I'm not too sure about that one, actually. If it's not recognizing the keyboard shortcuts, then yeah, because basically the Stream Deck is just a keyboard. That's all it is. It's just that you're programming what it's doing. Now it might be that using the plugin it's doing something else, but when it comes to those keyboard shortcuts, if you type in the letter C and put a command before it, it's literally just simulating that keyboard shortcut. So as far as I'm aware, if you've got something where you can trigger it literally with a keyboard shortcut, an actual keyboard shortcut, then using the shortcut action in Stream Deck would just be doing exactly the same thing. It's just simulating that. So I don't know why that wouldn't work unless I'm misunderstanding the issue there. It should just work the same. When do I sleep? Yeah, I often mention that that I get up at 3 o'clock. I don't go to bed at midnight though. I'm not getting 3 hours sleep. I'm usually in bed quite early, sort of 8 or 9 o'clock. It's been creeping a little bit later. The kids have been staying up a lot later, so as they get older. So maybe I might start getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock a bit later. Who knows? So let's have a look. Ecamm audio has been superseding my Rodecaster. Let's see. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Do you mean it's out of sync? Is that what you're talking about there? Ecamm audio. Yeah, if you've got an audio sync issue, I don't know if this is what you mean by that. I might be completely having a little bit of a brain meltdown and not understanding. But if you've got an audio sync issue with Rodecaster or audio going into your device, let me just see if that has been. Sometimes the clarification comes later. I'm not sure what you mean by that. If there's a sync issue in Ecamm with audio, let me just answer get to the point that I was trying to make. There is an audio sync option in the settings. So if we go into audio in Ecamm, then you've got mic delay. So mic delay is used where you've got the delay is out of out of sync with the capture card, for example. So capture cards will generally introduce some delay. So that is one thing. I'm just noticing. So no, it takes over audio. I see what you're saying. So where is it actually taking over that from then? If you're saying that Ecamm is taking over audio from Rodecaster, as taking over audio from my Rodecaster, have you seen that issue? So there is an option, or there is something that happens sometimes when you're sharing screen in Ecamm, where I've seen some people where their system audio changes to something like, it might be called something like Ecamm application audio or Ecamm something audio. If that's what you mean, I think that's something related to screen sharing, but also I find that it happens when people have got their system audio and the audio in other applications set to same as system. What I mean by that is, let me bring these things up again. In the preferences, for example, if we go into our audio here, where we've got speaker, in this case is Rodecaster Pro 2 main stereo, but you do have this option as system default, same as system basically. And like in Zoom, you can set it to same as system rather than a specific thing. So yeah, if that's what you're talking about, where you find your system is changing to Ecamm audio, then it's worth just checking the settings that you've got on all of those. And by the way, I do actually have my system audio and Rodecaster audio set to the same channel on Rodecaster. And then in Ecamm, I'm using broadcast system audio when sharing the screen, so that my audio is getting passed through into Ecamm. And then on my other two channels for Rodecaster, I'm using Zoom and Discord. That's what I use those other channels for. So you're saying it takes over audio, so it's switching it from the. It's in. Where is it exactly that it's switching it from though? Is it what I was just saying there, where it's the system audio is changing, or not? I might well have not answered the question, but yeah, if you check those things, that might well do it. There we go. So Eric, let's see. Oh, great! Thanks for that. I'm glad they were useful. I use text module for SSH commands as an example. Use text Text modal. Okay. I'm not sure of the context of that. I think that that's useful, but I'm not sure why. So use text modal for SSH commands. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but there you go. Thanks for that. If somebody else is understanding that, awesome tip for the Apple guide. Totally going to use that. No problem. Yeah, it's a great little hack that is, because it's they've obviously done the work, haven't they, in the design style guide. So I thought, well, why reinvent the wheel? I'll just follow their lead. You have several WebM animations. How do I put these files into a folder to have easy access during a class on Zoom? As you mentioned about Ecamm earlier, if you mean having them in, no, in a folder in Stream Deck, of course, right? So, that's kind of what I've got in here. I've got those little animations that come up on screen in my little promo thing here. So if those are WebM animations in Ecamm, you first of all obviously drag them into Ecamm. I'm going to assume that part is understood. Maybe I shouldn't. Why would I do that? Let me come over here. So in Ecamm, I will show you what I've got. If I go into my demo mode, like this, and in my output here, in my overlays window, I have actually got a folder which has got my little promos in here. So it's this, I've still got some that I haven't used for ages from Black Friday there, but these are all my little promos, and all my little animations are in here as well. So I've put them all into a folder in my overlays window. It's down here actually. These ones, these animations, this is the ones, not the promos. So these are all my different like call to action things that pop up on the screen. So I've put those all into a folder. One of the things that you should do on these as well is there is an option when you actually play it. You see that they're all hidden at the moment. If you've got a lot of animations in Ecamm on your screen, let me just come out of that for a second. If you've got a lot of animations on in your scene, then one of the problems is they might well have transparency on them so that they disappear from view. Like if I pop another one up with something like this. So I'll pop the little Discord one up. So that comes on. It's a transparent overlay. And then when the thing disappears, it's going to disappear off the screen. But ordinarily, that would still technically be there as a visible overlay, if that makes sense. It's an overlay that's visible in the overlays window. It's just invisible on screen because it's got a transparency, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'll just play that again, and I'll just pause that just there. What you want to do to set this up into Ecamm, if I just share my screen again, is with the overlay, you just click on this little button here. Scene is locked. Let me unlock it. Click on this button here. Whoops, overlay is unlocked. There we go. I thought I'd unlock that. There we go. You click on that little button there, and you have it so that once it's finished playing the animation, you set it to this, hide and stay hidden. Ordinarily, it'll be set to do nothing. And what that means is when you play it, it might get to the end of it. And then although the animation will disappear, you'll see in a minute, technically the overlay is still there. So if you don't have it hiding automatically at the end, then you end up with all these different overlays that are still technically there. You might inadvertently drag it and move it somewhere as well if it's not locked. So you just want to make sure that as part of the setup with that WebM, you have that hide and stay hidden, hide and stay hidden there. So then what happens is when it finishes playing, it not only finishes, but it's actually gone from this scene as well. So that's step one, is actually getting your overlays into Ecamm. The next step then is actually over in Stream Deck, just come in and create a folder and just right click, create folder. And then here you would use the play animation. And use the play animation, you can set whichever one you want. So if I select Academy, for example, when I press that button now, it will play that animation. But then also use that thing that I mentioned about for the folder, where you just have that auto exit set if you want to do that. And what that means is when you come out of the folder, so if I click this folder now, this is where you could have all of your different actions. And then when you press the button, it triggers the overlay, but it also exits out from that folder as well. And you could also then do the thing that I mentioned as well before, where rather than just have the animation, you can create a multi-action so that it's also pasting a link if you want to paste a link into there as well. Hopefully that answers the question. Um, oh, this is the one about the thing. So that it uses 4 character shortcuts. Oh, I see. So it's so you're basically pressing multiple things in succession. Is that what you mean? Like multiple text things in succession, or is it meaning because you can have multiple modifier keys when you're using text, when you're using the keystroke thing in sorry, the getting all of my words mixed up here. When you're using the hotkey in here in Stream Deck, if I just add a hotkey in here, you can obviously use. You likely know this, but I'm just saying you can use multiple sort of modify keys like that. You know, where you're using multiple of them together. If it's something where you've got to press keys in succession, I don't know if that is quite what you mean. You could always use a multi-action and then use the text thing instead. So I'm not quite sure about that one, honestly. Not too sure what the issue is with that. Let's see. I think I may have come back to that anyway. I'll come back to that if I think about what that might be. Let's see where we're up to. Well, there we go. I think we've actually covered those. Hello, Dr. Oteng. Great to see you here. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, if anybody has got any further questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If not, drop them into the comments, or better still, head over to Discord and drop them into there. I always do this thing of asking if there's any further questions, and then there's always this delay of like 10 seconds or so. And I always seem to cut somebody off because I've ended the stream and then the question just pops in right at the end, no matter how long I seem to leave for it. But there we go. I will assume that there are no further questions. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this useful. I'll leave a link to some of my other Stream Deck content over here on the right-hand side when I get around to it after this video is processed. Thanks again for watching. Thanks also to all of my channel members and Academy members. I appreciate you all. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you next time.